All right, so get ready, folks, because today we're diving into the deep end of spooky history.
Ooh, sounds intriguing. What have we got?
Today we're taking a look at the Cage.
A cage.
Yeah, it's this house in Essex, England, and it's gotten, well, a pretty creepy reputation.
I bet. A whole house, huh? That's a lot of space for spooky stuff to happen.
It really is. And what's extra interesting about this case is we've got some pretty cool sources to work with.
Oh, lay it on me.
So first, we've got this online article all about a paranormal investigation that went completely sideways.
Oh, I love when that happens. The best stories come from those unexpected twists.
Right. And then we'll be checking out some discussions on Reddit. From a thread on, get this, creepy verified pieces of found footage.
Okay, color me intrigued. Verified footage. That's not something you see every day.
So what's the mission for this deep dive?
Oh.
Are we trying to debunk the myth or embrace the spooky?
Well, that's the beauty of it, right? We're going to lay out all the evidence, all the accounts, and let our listeners decide for themselves. I like it. A good old-fashioned paranormal puzzle. So where do we start with this cage mystery?
Well, like any good mystery, I think we need to start at the beginning with the history of the cage itself.
All right, history buff, take it away. What's the backstory on this creepy house?
So for centuries, the cage was used as a prison for women accused of witchcraft.
Whoa, hold on. A witch prison? That's heavy stuff. No wonder it's got a spooky reputation.
Right. And one of the most infamous residents was a woman named Ursula Kemp. She was in prison there and later executed in 1582.
1582, that's going way back. You have to imagine the kind of energy that lingers in a place like that. All those accusations, all that suffering.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for a haunting, for sure.
And that brings us to a more recent event.
Okay, fast forward a few centuries, what happened?
So in December of 2017, a team from Ghost Hunt UK decided to investigate the cage.
Ghost Hunt UK, those guys are serious about their ghost hunting. I bet they've seen it all.
Oh, yeah. And they were expecting the usual, creaks, shadows, maybe a cold spot or two.
Right, the classic haunted house starter pack.
Exactly. But what they got was way more intense than they bargained for.
Ooh, I like where this is going. Did they get attacked by a ghost? See a full-bodied apparition?
Well, they had a volunteer with them named Debbie.
Debbie. Okay, what happened to Debbie?
She ended up experiencing what they believe was a full-blown demonic possession.
Whoa, hold the phone. A demonic possession. Now we're talking. It's like head spinning, pea soup spinning, the whole 9 yards.
And get this, the whole thing was caught on a hidden camera.
No way. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. Or maybe the wrong place. So what does a demonic possession look like on camera?
Well, the footage is especially creepy around 3 a.m., the devil's hour.
Ah, yes, the witching hour. Makes sense. So what happened at 3 a.m.?
The footage shows Debbie undergoing some really disturbing physical changes.
Like what? Give me the spooky details.
Her face contorted, her fingers looked like they were getting longer, and her nose, it seemed to become almost hook-like.
Whoa, hook-like nose. That's some next-level possession stuff, and this was all caught on camera.
Clear as day.
I've heard of people faking paranormal activity before, but faking those kinds of physical changes, that's gotta be tough, even for the best con artist. I mean, have you ever tried to make your nose look hook-like?
Not easy.
Exactly. So you're telling me they're filming this, it's 3 a.m., and Debbie's going through a full-on transformation. What happened next?
After this alleged possession, they found Debbie in a complete state of panic.
Oh man, I bet I'd be freaking out too.
She was saying that she felt like she was on fire.
On fire! That's intense. And to make things even creepier, she had these unexplained claw marks on her back.
Now that sends chills down my spine.
It's like something or someone was holding her down, right? This cage place seems like a magnet for the paranormal.
It really does.
Yeah.
And Debbie's experience isn't even the only one. The former owner of the cage, a woman named Vanessa Mitchell, she had some terrifying encounters too.
Oh no, not another one. All right, tell me about Vanessa. What did she go through?
Well, she talked about feeling physically assaulted by something she couldn't see.
Physically assaulted, like punched, shoved, what?
And she even had security cameras that caught footage of something really bizarre.
What did they catch? A ghost in the act.
It looked like a bipedal, goat-like creature roaming the property.
Hold on, a goat-like creature? What? Like a demon goat? Couldn't that have just been, a regular goat? Maybe she lives in an area with a lot of farm animals.
That's a good question. The footage, unfortunately, isn't super clear, and sometimes people misinterpret things, especially when they're already spooked.
True, true. It's easy to jump to conclusions when you're dealing with the paranormal, but I'm guessing there's more to the story, right?
Yeah, Mitchell claims that this creature moved in ways that no normal animal could,
Like defying gravity, teleporting, that sort of thing.
and that it seemed to just vanish into thin air.
Okay, now that's just creepy. A disappearing demon goat. You can't explain that away with logic. So this goat creature thing wasn't the only strange thing that happened, right?
Nope. But perhaps the most disturbing part is that Mitchell felt that these entities, whatever they were particularly drawn to her infant child.
Oh no, that's awful. To feel like your child is in danger from something you can't even see, I can't imagine the stress and fear she must have gone through.
Is heartbreaking. And it was that fear that ultimately led her to leave the house in 2012.
I don't blame her one bit. If I saw a demon goat on my security camera, I'd be packing my bags too. But it seems like even though she left, the strange activity at the cage didn't stop, right?
Not at all. We've got accounts from photographers and investigators who had their own share of creepy encounters.
Okay, lay it on me. What kind of spooky stuff did they experience?
Well, there's this photographer named Ron Bowers.
Okay, Ron the photographer, what did he see?
He claimed to have captured images of these smoke-like figures in the house back in 2013.
Smoke-like figures. That's pretty classic ghost stuff. Any chance it was just, dust or something. Photographers can be a little dramatic sometimes, right?
He even described this terrifying encounter with an entity.
An entity? What, like a full-on ghost encounter?
He said it left him with nightmares, and get this, it got so bad, he started sleeping with a crucifix for comfort.
A crucifix? Whoa, that's serious. Even if he was prone to exaggeration, sleeping with a crucifix means he was genuinely freaked out. What else happened at the cage?
There was another investigator, a guy named Chris Halton.
Chris Halton, got it. What did he find?
He took this photograph in 2016.
Okay, a photograph. Creepy photograph, I'm assuming.
It allegedly shows this contorted figure in the alley behind the cage.
A contorted figure, like a human figure or something else.
He believes it could be residual energy from back when they used to dispose of the bodies of accused witches in that same alley.
Oh my gosh, that's awful. And to think that energy might still be lingering there,
Yeah.
like the whole area is steeped in this dark history. So it's not just the house itself, it's the surrounding area too.
That's right. And if that wasn't enough, the Ghost Hunt UK team, they picked up some scientific anomalies that support these claims.
Scientific anomalies. Okay, now we're talking my language. What did they find? Give me the technical details.
Well, they reported spikes in EMF readings.
EMF readings, right. Electromagnetic field readings. Those are a classic tool for paranormal investigators. For those who might not be familiar, EMF readings measure those invisible fields of energy that surround electronic devices, even living beings. And some believe that spirits can manipulate these fields, causing spikes that we can detect with EMF meters.
They also observed blinking lights, strange sounds, odd electronic signals, you name it.
All classic signs that something paranormal might be going on. It's like the house itself is trying to communicate. So what was the general consensus from the folks involved with the cage? Did anyone else think it was haunted?
Even the estate agent who handles the property, a guy named Lawrence Anthony, he acknowledged that the cage has a history of documented paranormal activity.
So even the real estate agent is spooked. That says something. It's like everyone who comes into contact with this house agrees that something unusual is happening within its walls.
It really is quite a mystery. So we've got eyewitness accounts, photographs, scientific readings. It definitely seems like the cage is living up to its haunted reputation.
It sure does. But there's always more to uncover, right?
Absolutely. There are so many more layers to this story, and we'll dive into those right after the break.
Can't wait. Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get even creepier. It's really the sheer number of accounts we have, from investigators to everyday people, that makes the cage stand out.
Yeah, it's true. You've got one spooky story, sure, maybe it's a coincidence.
Or an overactive imagination, yeah.
But when you have so many different people with different backgrounds, all reporting these similar experiences,
That's when things get really interesting.
it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It does. And that's why it's so important, I think, to approach cases like this with, a balanced perspective.
Balance how?
Well, you got to be skeptical, right? Question everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, got to keep an open mind.
Okay, I can get behind that. Be skeptical, but open. So let's play devil's advocate for a minute.
All right, love it. Let's get skeptical. Where do we start?
What are some of those skeptical viewpoints? How would a skeptic explain the activity reported at the cage?
Skeptics would probably start by talking about, the power of suggestion.
The power of suggestion.
Yeah, like Our brains are wired to find patterns, even where there aren't any.
Right, right. Especially in a place like the cage with such a dark history.
Exactly. It's easy to get spooked, let your imagination run wild.
It's like when you're walking through the woods at night and every little sound freaks you out.
Right. Your mind starts playing tricks on you. So some of these experiences, they could be amplified by those expectations.
Or even a desire to see something paranormal, right? Like you're looking for it, so you find it.
Bingo!
Uh,
And we can't forget about the possibility of hoaxes.
Hoaxes, right. People faking evidence.
Or even just straight up misinterpreting what they see or hear.
Okay, yeah. Give me an example.
Yeah. So like those eerie sounds could just be old pipes settling.
The wind, yeah.
Exactly. And those shadowy figures, maybe just tricks of the light.
Right, right. Or even pareidolia.
Pareidolia, yeah. That's when you see faces or patterns in random things.
So like seeing a face in the wallpaper.
Exactly. It happens more often than you think. So, bottom line, we gotta be cautious.
Not jump to conclusions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Just because something seems paranormal doesn't automatically make it so.
All right, that's fair. So where does that leave us with the cage? We've got some compelling evidence, but we also need to acknowledge, that there could be other explanations.
Absolutely, but that's what makes it so interesting, right? Even when you look at it skeptically, there are still those elements that just don't have a clear explanation.
What kind of elements?
Well, take Debbie's alleged possession, for example. Those physical changes.
Contortions, yeah.
Yeah, hard to explain that away as just trickery or imagination, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you were saying earlier about how even professional contortionists would have a hard time replicating those specific movements.
Exactly. And then you add in the consistency of the reports.
Right, from all those different people.
The scientific anomalies, the genuine terror people like Vanessa Mitchell experienced.
It all adds up to something pretty unusual happening at the cage.
It really does. So let's say, just for argument's sake, that the cage is haunted.
Okay, I'm game. Let's say it is. Then what?
Then the question becomes, what can we learn from these experiences? What can it tell us about the nature of these entities?
Ooh, good question. Are they spirits trapped there? Are they angry?
Right. Or are they something else entirely? Interdimensional beings. Something we can't even comprehend.
Okay, yeah, things are getting pretty mind-blowing here.
It's a rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's what makes the cage so captivating. It forces us to think outside the box.
To question everything we thought we knew about the world.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, it hints at the existence of something beyond our current understanding.
Okay, let's shift gears for a second.
Okay, I'm following you. What you got?
I want to put ourselves in the shoes of the people who experience these events.
Okay, yeah, get into their heads a little bit. I like it.
So let's say you're Debbie.
Oh, man, poor Debbie. All right, I'm Debbie. I'm at the cage. It's 3 a.m., and I'm feeling...
Possessed.
Oh, man. Just the thought of it sends shivers down my spine. To feel that loss of control, like something else is taking over your body, it's gotta be terrifying.
And what about Vanessa Mitchell? Imagine the fear of being threatened in your own home, especially with a child to protect.
It makes you realize that these stories, they're not just entertainment, right?
They have real consequences for the people involved.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the paranormal, if it exists, can have a real impact on people's lives.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, and it raises the question, are some places just better left undisturbed?
Ooh, good question. But then again, there's that human curiosity, that drive to understand the unknown.
That's the paradox, isn't it? The same fear that repels us also draws us in.
And in the case of the cage, those answers, well, they're still out there, waiting to be discovered.
They are. All right, so we've talked about the alleged activity, but I'm thinking we haven't really delved into the historical context of witchcraft accusations that much.
Oh, you're right. We need to talk about that, especially during the time when Ursula Kemp was in prison there.
It's a dark chapter, for sure.
A really dark chapter. And not just limited to England either.
Right. Witch hunts happened all across Europe, even parts of America.
It's a reminder that sometimes history isn't so pretty.
It's important to remember that context, because it adds another layer to the paranormal claims at the cage.
So how do you think that historical context, the witch trials, how do you think that relates to what people are reporting today?
Well, some researchers believe that places where intense suffering or injustice happened, they can hold on to that energy.
Like a stain that never goes away?
Kind of. And that energy, it might be what's manifesting as paranormal activity.
So the paranormal activity is like a manifestation of that historical trauma.
That's one interpretation. It's a pretty powerful concept, It makes you think about how we perceive history, how the past can still affect the present.
giving me chills.
Yeah.
So we're exploring the idea that trauma, even historical trauma, can create paranormal activity. But is there any scientific evidence for that?
Well, that's where things get a bit tricky. The scientific community, by and large, doesn't really accept the existence of paranormal phenomena, so...
Right, because it's hard to study using those traditional scientific methods.
Exactly. It's unpredictable. You can't control the variables.
But haven't there been attempts to study how human consciousness can affect, like, physical systems?
There have been, yeah. Some studies have even shown that our thoughts can have a subtle influence on things.
So even if we can't definitively prove the link between trauma and paranormal activity scientifically, it's still a compelling idea, right?
Absolutely. It makes you think about the connections between time, space, and human experience in a whole new way.
It all circles back to the cage, doesn't it?
It does. The cage is like a perfect example of that interconnectedness.
So what other aspects of the cage should we look at to, really try to understand this case?
I think we should dig a little deeper into this idea of residual haunting.
Residual haunting. Remind me what that is again.
So it's this theory that certain locations can, like, absorb the energy of past events.
Like a sponge soaking it all up.
Exactly. And then that energy can be replayed, almost like a recording.
Oh, that's interesting. So the cage, with all its history, it could be like one big residual haunting.
It very well could be. And that
Yeah.
makes you wonder about those entities people have reported.
The shadowy figures, the goat-like creature, even the entity that might have possessed Debbie.
Are they all connected to those past events? Are they echoes of the people who suffered there?
It's a chilling thought. But man, that's what makes exploring this stuff so fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. It pushes us to think beyond what we think we know and consider those possibilities that we might not fully understand.
It's like we're constantly on the edge of a breakthrough, but the answers always seem to stay just out of reach.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe the pursuit of the mystery is what matters most.
Okay, that's deep. So we're accepting that we might never have all the answers.
Not necessarily, but we gotta be comfortable with the uncertainty, with the fact that there might be forces at play that we don't fully comprehend yet.
So even if we can't definitively prove or disprove ghosts, the pursuit of these mysteries can still teach us a lot.
Absolutely. It teaches us to think critically, to question everything, and to embrace that sense of wonder and mystery that's all around us.
I like that. Embrace the mystery. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into the cage, should we try to bring it back down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, good idea. We've been up in the clouds of speculation for a while now.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground. History, evidence, personal accounts, even skeptical viewpoints.
And we've talked about those EMF readings, the EVPs, and the impact these experiences can have on people.
We even went back in time, explored those witch trials, and the idea that historical trauma can, leave an energetic mark on a place.
We didn't shy away from those big questions either, did we? Like the nature of reality, the limits of our perception.
Nope, we went there. But after all that, the big question is still out there, hanging in the air,
Is the cage truly haunted?
That's the one. And I think, after all we've discussed, it's a question that each listener has to answer for themselves.
We've presented the information.
The evidence, the different theories.
But it's up to you, dear listener, to weigh it all and come to your own conclusions.
That's right. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to the paranormal.
It's all about critical thinking, keeping an open mind, and, well, just enjoying the mystery.
Well said. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I think we should maybe reflect on the cage a little bit.
Yeah, good idea. Some final thoughts, maybe some lingering questions.
Exactly. To get everyone thinking about the bigger picture of all this.
Sounds good to me. Stay tuned, folks. We're not done yet. All right, so we've explored it all, right? The history, the evidence, the personal accounts, even the skeptical viewpoints surrounding the cage.
EMF readings, EVPs, demonic possessions, even a creepy goat creature.
We really went deep on this one. But after all that, we still have the big question, don't we?
The question that always lingers.
Is the cage actually haunted?
It's the question everyone wants answered.
And I think, after everything we've talked about, the answer really comes down to each individual listener.
Right. There's no right or wrong answer here, really.
It's about looking at the evidence, thinking critically, and being open to the possibilities.
For me, what makes the cage so fascinating, so compelling, is that it really embodies what a haunting is all about,
What do you mean?
It's that feeling that the past is still present.
Like those whispers of suffering, of injustice, echoing through time.
Exactly. The house itself, it's like a container holding the energy of everyone who walked through those doors.
Both the accused and the accusers.
Yeah. And that energy, whether it's paranormal or just a lingering sense of, I don't know, unease, it affects people, you know?
Yeah, it's palpable, almost.
And I think that's what makes haunted places so interesting to us. It's not just about ghosts or spooky events. It's about history, psychology, the human experience.
The cage, it's like this stark reminder that the past, it doesn't always stay buried.
It can linger, it can whisper to us if we're listening.
And sometimes those whispers, well, they become something more.
Something we can see, something we can hear, something that shakes our understanding of the world.
So let's say just for a moment that the cage is truly haunted.
Okay, I'm with you. Haunted it is. What then?
What does that tell us about these entities?
Yeah.
About their connection to that dark history?
Well, now we're getting into speculation territory.
Right, but that's half the fun.
Exactly. But if we consider those residual hauntings, the idea that energy can be imprinted on a place.
It's possible that what people are seeing, hearing, feeling at the cage, those are just echoes.
Echoes of those past events, of the people who suffered there.
That's a chilling thought, for sure. But it's also fascinating, right?
It is. It suggests that human emotion, especially trauma, it can leave a mark.
A mark that might last for centuries.
And it makes you wonder, what happens to consciousness after death? Does that energy persist?
Are we talking about souls here?
Maybe. That's the big mystery. And I think deep down, that's what keeps us coming back to these stories. The fear, the curiosity, the desire to understand those things that we can't fully grasp.
It's like we're drawn to the darkness, even though it scares us.
It's a primal instinct, I think. The need to explore the unknown, to confront the shadows.
And you know what? Sometimes it's okay to not have all the answers.
It is. It's about accepting that mystery, embracing it.
It's about realizing that there's so much more to the universe than we can even imagine.
And maybe, just maybe, by exploring these haunted places, these strange events, we can inch a little closer to understanding those bigger mysteries.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the cage, I want to say this.
What's that?
Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the stories we tell, the evidence we uncover, those offer a window into ourselves.
Into our fears, our hopes, our deepest beliefs.
It's about pushing those boundaries of what we think we know and being open to something more.
And it's about remembering that there are still mysteries out there.
Mysteries that are just waiting to be uncovered.
So to everyone listening, keep that curiosity alive.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep an open mind.
The world is full of these amazing, strange stories, and the cage is just one of them.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, stay curious and keep those lights on.